Alright, so I wanted to make a video on how to get out of the lower ranks. And the lower ranks, I'm talking about copper, bronze, and silver, and try to get up to gold. So I've played with plenty of people in the copper, silver, and bronze ranks, and I've learned a couple of things from them and why they just aren't gold. Some things that I notice is that their just aim is just legitimately not as good as other players, and I noticed the biggest reason why they just miss their shots is mostly because, like, I don't know if it's a mixture between them not warming up or if their sense is too high, because I've played with a couple of coppers and I asked them, like, what is your sense, and like how many 360s can you do if you start at one end of your mouse mat and just go to the other end, and you just don't stop until you reach the end of the mouse mat. How many 360s can you do? I've come across people saying I could do 5, I could do 6, I could do 2. But if you're able to do more than one 360, and you may consider your mouse mat very large, I think I have a 17-inch wide mouse mat. So it's larger, and I use a good portion of it. I don't use, I guess, like 5 inches of the far right of it. But some things that you should think about is, how often do I do a 360, or how often do I have to do a 180 right before I fight somebody? And if you think about it, barely, like, a very small portion of your fights require you to do a massive turn or something more than a 180. So I recommend only being able to do a 360 one time. And the reason is because you don't have to make it so difficult for yourself just to aim at something very small in the distance. You should be able to mostly aim at a point and just kind of be able to focus on that point without moving around a whole lot. So sometimes I see them and it's extremely jittery, they can't really control it, or they just overflick targets. So if they see a person just walking around, they just happen to miss shots that they normally shouldn't, or normally would not. Or I guess the normal player wouldn't miss. So the first step is by lowering your sense down to a point where you could only do one 360 if you start at one end of your mouse mat and go to the other end. It may seem extremely low at first, but with some practice, it will become extremely easy just to focus on your shots and land them more consistently. Something else that I learned is that they don't call out very often, or if they do call out, the callouts are very unspecific or very broad, like they're on my body, they're on the first floor, they're over here. You know, the general confusing callouts that you really don't understand where the person's actually located. I do it too sometimes if I'm in a panic or a mid-gunfight, but I recommend avoiding making confusing general callouts and more focused on callouts of the actual room. And if you don't know, like, what the room is called, like this room is technically called workshop, or some people like call it construction or something. If you don't know that, you could just look down on your bottom right and you could see the compass. Just use the compass and just say where they are located. So, like, the most common time I use the compass is on Cafe Dostoevsky, on the kitchen. Both of the rooms are called kitchen, so people don't really know, like, where enemies are located. I made my own little callouts for different spots, like close to the bakery wall. I call that, like, Gordon Ramsay, because you're able to cook food there. And then closer to the back, near freezer door, I like to call that Maids, because I just needed a name for it. But for most people, they may hear the word Maids and be extremely confused and have no idea where that is. So instead, you could give a compass direction, so then they know where they are, I guess you could say. And something else that I realized is that in the beginning of a ranked match, they love driving their drone into sight just to find where the bomb is. And I'm not talking like 1 or 2 people do it. I normally see up to like 3 to 4 drones enter sight for no reason whatsoever, get shot, and then they just continue on as if they made no mistake at all. I find that very troubling. Drones and information is extremely important in Rainbow Six, and you have to use that information that you gathered to help you get kills. Those kills will lead to wins, and wins will lead to you actually hitting gold. And I recommend, if you're in the lower ranks, one easy way to get information is just by picking Mozzie. If you shoot his pests on certain doorways at the very start, like sight doorways, I should say, it's very easy to get drones because you know that they're just going to run those drones in and waste them, which is very troubling. But it's a good way for you to take information from them and give it to your own teammates. When you play Mozzie, I don't recommend you like sit on that drone the whole time. If you are going to sit on it for an extended period of time, make sure that you're in a safe spot. Make sure you have teammates around you, so then you don't get killed, or you could just use those drones to assist your roamers. I recommend only having one dedicated roamer, and then another roamer that just kind of is more shallow. So they sit in a room adjacent to the site, so they sit next to it. So a good example of an adjacent room, I would say, is unlike Outback. If the bomb site is gear store, Convenience is right next to it, and it watches the doorway. And it also watches, or it leads into a little room that connects to bottom garage. Some people like to go into bottom garage. So if you sit in Convenience, you have a lot of cover behind the tower, and it just allows you to slow the push and makes it very difficult for the attackers to do their job. I notice most lower ranks find it very difficult to attack, just in general to attack. I think the biggest reason is they panic or they don't know what to do, and that is because they don't have drones. They wasted their drones in the beginning, and since they don't have drones near to the end of the round, they panic or they slow down a lot, and then they're stuck there sitting. I've seen people sit there for at least 30 seconds just holding an angle, hoping that a defender peeks them. Surprisingly, they do get peeked sometimes and they win it just because they have an ACOG over distance. It's very surprising and almost troubling how, but that's a different issue among itself. So you should always save your drones, and if you're going to attack, make sure that you put your drone close to where you're going to enter, and if you're going to enter into a part of the map, make sure that it has some relevance to the site that you're attacking. So on Bank, I love to go through the printer window, which is the window in office, or open area, I mean. I like to go through that open area window, so then I could put direct pressure on the hatches, because I always like to play Habana. If they're basement, I can get those hatches open, but something that I do first before I hop into the room is I drone it out just to make sure it's clear. If I just assume it's clear, and I hop in and I die right away with Habana, then we can't get hatches open, and it makes it extremely difficult for my teammates to actually win that round. This game is not all about, I'd say, gunfights. It is also about what you do that helps you get those kills. Because not everybody can win just a 1v1 after 1v1. Most people cannot. That's why they're in those lower ranks. But an easier way to win 1v1s is making it so your opponent has a disadvantage in some way. That's why people hate upside down repels, because it's very difficult to see that person on upside down repel, because they see your legs first before they see your head, and it gives the person on a repel almost pretty much a free kill, because that person made a mistake in peeking a window or not contesting it from a different side, where the person on repel is stuck on repel and they could just do a run out on him. Sorry if everything that I say seems kind of chaotic. It's because I'm just kind of thinking about it as I play this T-Hunt and warming up for my ranked matches. Ooh, that was a whiff shot, but shit happens. And, oh, callouts. Don't forget to give callouts to your teammates. If you see an enemy and you shoot some shots at them, and then you get behind cover to reload, give that little opportunity to give a call out to your team on the person that you're fighting and where they are. You don't have to say what kind of person it is, but it is helpful. And learning callouts is extremely helpful, so then your teammates aren't running around blind and unaware where the enemies are located, so then they have to face check every single room or walk blindly into it and die, giving the enemy a free kill. So, on attacks, take your time, but don't waste your time by sitting there holding an angle for an extended period of time. Use your drones. Enter with a teammate, which I forgot to say. Enter in an area where you could put direct pressure onto the site, like somewhere where hatches, or go on a rappel. Upside down rappel is very easy to do, and getting good at upside down rappels takes time. I recommend going into a T-Hunt and just here, I'll show you what I mean. Going into a T-Hunt and just going onto rappel and practice just maneuvering around it. So I'd say at the corners, hit just flip around so then you don't get disoriented. I remember when I first went on upside down rappel, it was extremely disorienting, but now I'm used to it, and this is something that you have to get used to because it is very powerful and it gets you free kills. I'd say the best spot to go on upside down rappel in general is on Consulate, on the CEO windows, and on what's the map called? Canal on the Sky Bridge, which is the bridge connecting printer and control room for server, like the server bomb site, and rappelling on the window adjacent from the boxes. I know it's kind of confusing, but Canal is kind of shaped like a strange, like a donut, and the connecting pieces are like sky bridges, and you want to rappel on the window facing on the outside of that donut, I guess you could say. So that was just a lot of general things just to keep in mind when you play ranked and you want to get up to the gold elo. And if you continuously do those things and you get better at winning your gunfights, getting information, using your drones properly by saving them and finding out where enemies are, and then focusing on killing those people that you droned out, you will hit plat. 5 stacking is extremely helpful because you know who you're going in with, and you know that they have microphones. Microphones are extremely important for sharing information. just overall knowing who is going to play the Habana, who's going to play the Thatcher, who's going to play the Thermite, who's going to entry frag. So an entry fragger is like a soft breacher, like Sledge or Ash. Everybody knows, or everybody's good at Ash in some way. And that's just something to keep in mind. I think that just about covers everything that you need to know to get up to gold.